Salamun alaikum, Sabira. How are you?
Salam alaikum, Najma. Kataba rabbukum ala nafsihi rahma. Alhamdulillah, I'm so blessed. My Lord has made mercy incumbent upon himself, and we are all such fortunate recipients of his unending mercy.
Can you believe it? It's been a whole year since we went to the mosque. It's really starting to get to me. Honestly, I don't know what God has in plan for us.
I will never be struck except by what Allah has decreed for me. He is my protector, and upon Allah do I rely.
Yeah, but another Mahe Ramadan with no mosque chai, no samosa, no biryani, and I mean sitting in the mosque and eating with everyone.
Come on, Najma, it saves us from that social unhealthy eating. I eat of that which is lawful and good on the earth. Like, tell me, would you be able to resist someone offering you that delicious looking deep fried oily cutlets or batata champ?
Absolutely not. Those were blessings from Allah that I would accept as ma'idatam minas sama, heavenly food, which was an Eid, an ever recurring happiness. But then, in all fairness, remember we brought our salads to mosque? I guess now we have to make our own chai. Speaking of chai, have you heard of this virtual program running for over a year? It's called Chai and Chat, but you still have to make your own chai. Do you attend those, Sabira? Oh, and the Zainabiyya program on Monday is so good. And the Quran tafsir over the weekend, just phenomenal. Just so much available, mashallah. I like to take lead in all good works. Fastabiqul khairat. And it is bringing us all together globally. So tell me, which ones do you attend?
Oh, hardly any. My children are an adornment of the life of this world, but I am investing in them to make them my baqiyat salihat, my lasting righteous deeds.
But we are also encouraged to be aware of others' affairs, which we sometimes get to find out when we attend these programs. Then, in addition to being good and doing good to our near kin, we're also doing good to the orphans, the needy, the near neighbor, and the distant neighbor.
I totally agree with you, but I just feel like a year later we are so zoomed out. There is an information overload, and perhaps my take personally, but little to no action. I strongly believe Allah enhances in guidance those who are rightly guided, and again, Baqiyatus Salihat, lasting righteous deeds, are better with my Lord in reward, and better when I return to Him.
True. Allah gave us a trust, and we human beings undertook it. How are we fulfilling that responsibility?
Exactly my point. Phew, at least now you're starting to make sense, Najma. We have to have some action plans to fulfill the responsibility given to us through the teachings of the Quran.
Yes, Miss Philosopher. Now you need to help me in goodness and piety.
Oh, there are so many things that you probably already do. Maybe just extend it a little. So, for instance, instead of just making your usual donations to charity, you could encourage others to feed the poor, by also being a part of these fundraising initiatives. Another active step to take would be participating in programs like the Quran memorization program. After all, Allah has made the Quran easy for remembrance, and we should pay heed to it. Have you heard of this other initiative of planting your own organic food? Allah has made us grow from the earth with a progressive growth. Eating natural food is healthy, not just for our bodies, but also for our minds and souls.
What would I do without you, Sabira? Thank you so much. These are all amazing ideas, which inshallah we can try to implement one by one. But for now, let's attend just one more program. There is this amazing sounding course on affirmations from Quranic Concept that the ALI is offering. It will inshallah be a means of getting closer to Allah by learning how to respond to His words. We're actually late for it, Sabira.
Yeah, Najma, let's do it. What's the course code? I should register quickly and log in.
ALI 601.
Kobar, where are you running to? Wait for me.
Sabira is on my track. Ajilu ila rabbi litarda. I'm hastening towards my Lord that He may be pleased.
Okay, salam alaikum everyone, and welcome to ALI 601. It's a course on affirmations from Quranic Concepts. My name is Sabira Rashid-Juma, and along with me is my partner Najma Dhala-Datoo, who is, after all, just arriving a few seconds after me. On to you, Najma.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone, and welcome once again. So, with the help of the Almighty, Sabira and I have the pleasure of sharing with you all some of the ways we enjoy interacting with the Quran. I wanted to reiterate one of the verses we touched upon during our role play. As vicegerents of Allah on earth who undertook the trust, we have been given many privileges. Amongst those privileges we enjoy as humans is guidance in the form of the Holy Quran. Now, if we're to look at the verse from Surah Hashr, verse number 21, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in this verse, had we sent down this Quran upon a mountain, you would have surely seen it humbled and go to pieces with the fear of Allah. We draw such comparisons for mankind so that they may reflect. Now, we do sometimes get overwhelmed and feel that the Quran is so powerful, we're scared to touch it and interact with it. However, Quran in another place, in Surah Anfal, verse number 2, refers to believers and gives us qualities of the believers and say that the faithful are only those whose hearts tremble with awe when Allah is mentioned, and when His signs are recited to them, they increase their faith. So as believers, we aspire to reach that point where we feel that movement inside us. And then in turn, this movement leads us to action when we're dealing with a communication from Allah. And this is what brings us to our course today, where we are understanding Quranic concepts and affirming to Allah our response to His call. Allah gives us a direction and we are paying heed to it. And this includes everything that is there in the Quran. Things that appeal to us and give us emotional support, which is huge these days, as well as those commands that might not make total sense to us, but knowing it is from Allah, we respond and submit to Him in totality. Thus, we are fulfilling that trust, the responsibility of that trust that was given to us as His Khalifa on this earth. On to you, Sabira.
Okay, so just to go over what our plans are for today. So first of all, we just wanted to use the opportunity at the beginning with the example of our skit of how the words of Allah are really part of our lives all the time, and they can be part of our conversations. And when we make them part of our conversations, we really begin to internalize the messages that are in there for us. Okay, and then now what we'd like to go and move on to is to look at some themes that are discussed in the Quran. So we've chosen a few themes. Actually, the Quran is full of so much guidance and so much instruction for us. I wanted to mention one of the ayats in Surah Baqarah 185. Allah describes the Quran for us as a guidance for mankind and clear evidence of guidance and discrimination between wrong. And in another verse, Surah 17, Ayat 9, Allah says, "Lo, this Quran guides to that which is most upright." The Quran is full of so much guidance for us, and Allah is speaking to each and every one of us through these beautiful verses. So we wanted to spend some time and think about how we can use the Quran to help lead us, to use its guidance, so that we can benefit from it in a practical way. So hopefully we're going to be taking the opportunity to go over some themes. We're going to link them to some of the verses in the Quran related to that theme. And then we're going to talk about how we can create a personalized statement that we can use as a way of thinking about how to respond to what Allah is asking us to do in the Quran and how that personalized statement can affirm our belief. Okay, so we're going to just start with a few themes. Najma? Back to you.
Want to move on to the next slide?
Yep.
Okay. So the first verse that we have is responding to Allah. So first and foremost, since we are talking about responding to Allah, it's amazing how the Almighty has a prescription for just about anything and everything within the Quran. In this verse, we are told, "Istajibu lillahi wa lirrasuli," like give a jawab. إِذَا دَعَاكُمْ لِمَا يُحْيِيكُمْ. Right? So the address is to the faithful, O you who have faith, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا. Answer Allah and the apostle when he summons you to that which will give you life. So when we're responding to this kind of verse, this is one of the responses that we have come up with, and feel free to type on the chat maybe your way of responding to this verse. So we said, I'm responding to Allah and the Holy Prophet ﷺ to bring the Quran alive in my heart, right? So something that's going to give us life, we know, is by bringing the Quran alive into our heart, into our lives, into our daily routines. So right there and then there's a call from Allah in the Quran asking us to respond to him, and this is how we are giving our jawab, our response. So I don't know if anybody has any questions or any different way of maybe responding to this part of the verse. So, O you who have faith, answer Allah and the apostle when he summons you to that which will give you life. If not, we can move on to the next verse. Okay. So the other verse we have is on ita'at. Right now, we've picked the common and important themes that are there in the Quran, and obviously there's so many verses in the Quran for one particular theme, and we've just picked one out of the many. So this one is again from Surah Anfal, verse number 20, where it says, "O you who have faith, obey Allah and his apostle, and do not turn away from him while you hear him." So this is to do with obedience. And the way we have worded it is, I am compliant to the laws of Allah sent through his messenger, and do not turn away from the command, right? So this is in response to obedience. Basically, Allah is asking us for ita'at, which is very important, right? Islam is a holistic religion, and when we submit to the religion, it requires us to accept everything that is that comes with it, not just take something that appeals to us and one aspect of it and leave everything else, right? The message of the Quran, every message is there for mankind. So in response to this type of verse, I am compliant to the laws of Allah sent through his messenger, and do not turn away from the command. Okay, so there is a response to private to presenters. Do not turn away from the laws of the Quran. Okay, so now that is, it's great, yes. So do not turn away from the laws of the Quran. So that's the message I'm gathering. That's the message you're taking from this verse, right, Dara? Okay, awesome. So if you were to create a response for it, right, to say, like, basically when we're affirming to the verses of the Quran, we're using I statements, that this is how I am going to respond. This is what I am going to do, right? And as we go along, then Sabira is going to show us how to have an action plan towards the end of how to use these statements, right? So yeah, think about it. If you were to use an I statement for this type of verse, I mean, okay, I listen to the command of Allah and do not turn away from His laws. Great, thank you very much. Anybody else wants to try? You can use it in your own words, something that you feel like you will be able to apply to yourself, like it resonates with you. Like, this is a statement that I have created. I have responded this way, and I will follow through. Right? All right, Sabira, you want to move on to the next verse?
Okay, so the next theme we've chosen is the mercy of Allah, and the ayat reads from Surah Baqarah, ayat 218. Indeed, those who have become faithful and those who have migrated and waged jihad in the way of Allah, it is they who expect Allah's mercy, and Allah is all forgiving, all merciful. So we can try and break it down to digest the verse. I think that's always helpful. So just reading it again slowly, the first part is indeed those who have become faithful. So Allah is talking to the faithful. And those who have migrated and waged jihad in the way of Allah, it is they who expect Allah's mercy. And Allah is all forgiving, all merciful. So there's lots going on in this verse. I'd love to make this we'd love to make it an interactive session. If you guys would be able to type in the chat, what messages are you getting from this verse? What is Allah trying to tell us? It would be really awesome to hear from you guys. I'll just give you a minute to give you a chance to think about it and type something in.
Okay, so what does it mean by those who migrated? So this is talking about, obviously this verse was revealed to the Prophet during that time, right? So it's referring to those people who migrated from Makkah to Medina with the Prophet, right? And they were required to go through a lot of, it's not easy to migrate, right? So then they went through jihad in the way of Allah as well. We know they went through battle. So so that's what it refers to.
And I think what we can take away from that is something that was so difficult that they had to do for the sake of Allah.
So if we were to apply this to our lives today, it's kind of like almost the opposite. Like, there's no migration, but there's almost like lockdown, right? Like, we're kept at home, and that's our struggle.
Exactly. Okay, so we have a statement that we've come up with. I'll read that out to you, and please feel free to continue posting in the chat if you come up with one. So, I am striving hard in the way of Allah, and I hope for His mercy because He is all forgiving and all merciful.
Great. Okay, so there's another response here. I will go through difficult things for the sake of Allah.
I love that. Thank you.
Beautiful. Yes. Very nice.
Another one has come in. I am striving hard in the way of Allah to abide by His laws, that which He told us to commit to refrain from what He told us to refrain from, and I hope for His mercy because He is all forgiving and all merciful. Beautiful.
Yeah, I like that because you have you've extended it, like, by saying refraining from what he told us to refrain from, right? So that in itself is also a struggle. So identifying what our goals are. So you're not just sticking to what's there in the verse, but now you are trying to expand on it. So that's amazing, and that's another way of doing it as well, right? Taking a few things and adding more to it, to your goal and to your affirmations. Great.
Okay, we'll move on to the next one. So the next theme we have for you is gratitude. And this verse reads, "Do you not see that Allah has disposed for you whatever there is in the heavens and whatever there is in the earth? And He has showered upon you His blessings, the outward and the inward." What can you guys think of in terms of some personalized statements that you could come up with about gratitude? We have here, "I remember that Allah has showered upon me His blessings, both outward and inward."
Okay, thank you. These are extremely challenging times, but I have faith in Allah that better time will come. Great, that's a that's an amazing way of looking at it, right? Like, we're acknowledging that times are difficult, but then we're also trying to see everything else that's around us, right? And if we were to come back to this verse and see how much Allah has already blessed us with, right? So it's helping us to focus on what we already have, and maybe these are things that will keep us going and get us through a difficult time, right? Okay, I'm blessed by Allah in every way.
Another one, I should be more grateful for my blessings. Ayat that He increases our favors when we are grateful. Oh, they're referring to another ayat of the Quran about
Yes,
Allah.
so they're referring to yeah, Surah Ibrahim, verse number 7, right? La in shakartum la azidannakum. Right? That He increases our favors when we are grateful. Yes. So it's what you're doing right now is you're now connecting it to something else that you already know that's common in the Quran, and you're tying it to this theme, right? So amazing. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, there's another one.
Should I read it?
Yeah, go ahead, Sabira.
I remember that Allah has showered upon me His blessings from Islam, from being His servant, being a follower of Muhammad and Ali Muhammad, from the limbs He has created me with, from the eyes, the ears, the nose, the brain He has blessed me with. Wow, I love that. There's so much detail in that.
Yes, so that outward and the inward has been taken and then, like, specifically, mentioned, right? So yeah.
And they become so much more meaningful when you create it yourself. So this one is going to be really special for you because you have developed that yourself as your response.
MashaAllah, that's amazing. Great. Thank you for those responses. And so the idea is to make the exercise doable for everyone, right? So there is no wrong answer per se, right? What we're trying to do is, because the verse of the Quran remains the same, we're not making any changes to the verse of the Quran. Okay, so if there is this apprehension and this fear that I don't want to try and change anything from what's there, we're not changing the verses of the Quran. We've kept the verse of the Quran the way it is. What we're doing is we are responding to it, and we're responding to the message that's there in that particular verse. And that shows our connection with Allah, our active interaction with the message of Allah, right? So yes, I think everybody should try. Moving on to the next one, okay. So patience. There's so many verses of the Quran on patience, right? Maybe I will pause before we go through this one. If people want to start like writing on chat, like the common ones, the common verses that they already know about patience, like someone reminded us of the verse from Surah Ibrahim when we were talking about gratitude. So maybe before we go through the one that we have, you might have a verse that you know about patience, and now you're trying to create an affirmation from it. So there's a question here that says, so the affirmations should be I statements? Pretty much, yes, because I'm the one who's responding to the verse of the Quran. Okay, so the ayat on patience that someone's written private to presenters, one of them is after difficulty comes ease. Inna ma'al usri yusra, right? With every difficulty is ease. Okay. Seek help with patience and prayer. Istainu bis sabri was salah. Okay. In Allah ma sabirin, the very common one, right? Surely Allah is with the patient ones. Thank you. Thank you for sharing all these. Now, we know these verses. Yes, the verse in the slide is, yes, it should be 30. Yes, there's an error. Sorry, it's from Surah Luqman, verse number 17. Thank you, Brother Ali, for pointing that out. I think there was a typo. It's not from Surah Al Imran. This one is from Surah Luqman. The one is missing. It should be 31:17. Okay, so going back to those people who have responded with verses that they know. So starting with the first one, with every difficulty comes ease. So if I were to create an affirmation, or I want to try and expand it a little bit, right, in response to this verse, how shall I do it? Any thoughts? Anybody can try and answer it. So this is a reminder from Allah. With every difficulty comes ease, right?
Najma, can you repeat the question?
Okay, so I was thinking of going through the verses that came up for patience, like people have written to us either privately or on the public chat. So the first one that came in was Inna ma'al usri yusra, right? That with every difficulty, there is ease. So if I were to respond to this verse, how would I respond? Or if I were to create a statement for myself, an affirmation for myself, how would I expand on it? Because I mean, it's pretty clear when I tell myself, with every difficulty, there is ease. It's a reminder from Allah, right? That I need to be patient because there's light at the end of the tunnel. But now if I were to create an affirmation for myself, what would be some ideas? I will be patient because I know ease is coming after the period of difficulty. Thank you. That's a very nice, humble statement, right? So you're acknowledging that there is a period of difficulty that's going to end, that no one situation remains the same forever, right? But while we're going through that situation, what we need is patience, right? Great. Okay, let's look at the other one. Seek help with patience and prayer. So for this, the answer that has come up is I should pray in the best way. Example with khushu, on time, concentration. Okay, so you're exercising patience in your prayer. That's how you're affirming to that verse, I believe. Okay. And then Allah is with the patient ones. Very simple. How would you affirm to that? Okay, again, there's another one that has come up. I think it's to do with every difficulty there is ease. I know Allah will guide me through this short phase towards ease. I like it, Sabira. What do you think?
Yeah. It gives like
Okay.
sukoon in your heart, right? When you think about it this way, when you're responding to Allah this way.
I like the choice of words where she says short phase, right? Because really this world is going to not last forever, right? And we do acknowledge that all this too shall pass, right? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so let's tackle the verse that we have. Again, our apologies. It's Surah Luqman, verse number 17. O my son, maintain the prayer and bid what is right and forbid what is wrong, and be patient through whatever may visit you. That is indeed the steadiest of courses. Okay, so if we were to break this down. So how many things is Luqman telling his son in the verse? And while we wait for others to answer, I think with Inna Allah ma'as sabirin, yay, Allah is right beside me as I'm being patient. I like that, Fatma. It's very hope-giving, right? Knowing that Allah is with you when you're exercising patience. Okay, so Zara says we have four things: maintaining prayer, forbid what is right and wrong, and be patient. Okay, thank you, Nasifa. All right, so which one would you pick to affirm to? There's many things that we can affirm to here, right? What we have here is I'm patient through whichever circumstances visit me. Indeed, Allah's path is the steadiest of courses, right? Because it's in Allah's way that we're establishing our prayers and we are following, His command of doing Amr bil Ma'ruf and Nahy anil Munkar, and then exercising patience. Interesting. I will not sacrifice my beliefs despite what I go through. That's amazing. That's come private to presenters. Not everyone can read, but I will repeat it. I will not sacrifice my beliefs despite what I go through, right? So my beliefs include prayers and Amr bil Ma'ruf and Nahy anil Munkar, right? And sometimes, especially like in doing Amr bil Ma'ruf and Nahy anil Munkar, bidding what is right and forbidding what is wrong, we may have to, face some resistance, but we will not sacrifice that despite what we go through. So yeah, like that. Thank you very much for sharing. Anything else? Anybody else wants to attempt, or should we move on to another one? Okay, Sabra, are you doing this one?
You go ahead, and then I'm going to do the action plan.
All right. Okay. So trust, again, a common theme in the Quran and something we're told all the time. Have trust in Allah, rely on Allah. Do tawakkul. Okay. So again, feel free to put a verse that you already know, that is to do with tawakkul, with trust. In the meantime, we have here, whoever surrenders his heart to Allah and is virtuous has certainly held fast to the firmest handle, and with Allah lies the outcome of all matters. To keep it simple, we've pretty much just used the words from the ayat itself and put it as an example. But again, now that we've gone through the exercise, we can see that there's many different ways that we can come up with, right, in affirming to verses like these. I surrender my heart. Go ahead.
I think we have one missing again here. This is 31:22, I think.
Is also 31:22? Yeah, thank you for checking. Yes, I think
Everyone's disappeared.
somehow one got deleted for some reason. Yeah. No, we had a few from Surah Luqman. Okay, once these slides are posted, I think we will try to correct them before we post them. Okay, I will put my trust to the representatives of Allah as they are also the firmest handle. How beautiful is that? Right? So now we're acknowledging who are our means to Allah, right? We know that one of the means to get to Allah is through the Ahlul Bayt, the representatives of Allah, the A'immah, right? The Masumin. So I'm going to put my trust in the representatives of Allah as they are also the firmest handle. Okay? And then ultimately, the outcome lies with Allah, right? They are our means to get us to God. Great, thank you. I do my best and leave all the rest to Allah. Thank you, Nasifa, for sharing that. I know my mom always told me, do your best and Allah will do the rest, right? So now it's like affirming to that I am doing my best and leaving all the rest to Allah. Right? And when we surrender our heart to Allah, really, we're doing the best that we can. Okay? Thank you. All right. Shall we move on, Sabira? I think
I think our time is running out. Shall we move on to the action plan now?
Sure. You want to tackle one more verse and then we move on to the action plan? It's up to you.
Do we want to save time for questions?
Yeah, sure. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So what we were thinking is that it would be nice for us to think about one of these themes that we would like to really work on and adopt into our lives at a deeper level. So whether for you it would be trust, and another person it would be gratitude, and another person it would be patience, whatever it is that you feel is a quality that Allah has guided us towards, that Allah is asking us to have and to hold. And how, if you want to bring that more into your life, we were thinking of trying to suggest for you to pick one statement that you would work on for some time and create an action plan around that statement that would help bring you to that next level. So I'm going to skip over some of the other ones we had ready in case we had time. So to try and pick one particular statement. So you guys have come up with some amazing ones yourselves. So if you've already come up with your own, or if you'd like to spend some time afterwards and coming up with one that really fits well for you in your life, what you want to be working on. So for example, if I were to choose gratitude, that I want to really add that to my life, where I am really being grateful all the time. I really want to increase my gratitude. And I would come up with a personalized statement. And then the idea is to be able to see this all the time, so that you're reminding yourself of what it is that you're trying to achieve. Because sometimes our personalized statements are what we are trying to achieve. We want to be patient. We want to put our full trust in Allah, but we might not necessarily always be doing that. So it's something we want to work on. So having that put up somewhere would be a good way to remind ourselves what it is that we're working on. So some examples might be putting up a sign on your mirror so that you see it the first thing in the morning when you go to the bathroom and brush your teeth, for example, or if you want to put it on your home screen or your wallpaper on your phone, since that's something you look at often, just a way that you, somewhere where you would put your statement up, that you would be able to look at it often and ask yourself, am I doing that? This is my response. This is how I want to respond to Allah's call. And am I doing that? So it gives you a chance to do a constant check-in. You're constantly reminding yourself what it is that you're working on. So just as a suggestion, if that's something that you do want to do, noting down for yourself right now when you plan to do that, by when, and by the day and time. Like sometimes we get overwhelmed with so many things that come our way and we want to do so many things. So if you can make a commitment to yourself and you've written it down, it's more likely that you would be able to hold yourself to it. So if you want to make a note down yourself right now, this is what you want to do and you want to have it set up by this time, that's always a great way to start thinking about it and get yourself moving on the action. Okay, and then the next thing you want to do is you want to determine how is it that you are going to achieve this. So if it's, for example, gratitude, that you'd like to bring in more gratitude in your life. So what is it that you're going to do to make sure that you're bringing that into your life? So for example, do you want to set up a habit or a routine that in the morning when you wake up, before you even get out of bed, you mention a list of things that you are grateful for, or before sleeping that you will list all the things that have occurred that day that you are grateful for. Set up some type of action step that would help you determine a different way of thinking or a different habit that you're going to try and create. And the other example here is for if you're trying to put your trust in Allah. I will watch my thoughts, and each time I feel worry creeping up into my mind, I will restate my personalized statement out loud. I will keep a tally of the number of times I find myself repeating my statement. These are just examples. You can completely personalize this to yourself. Maybe you want to journal about it every time you're feeling worried about something. You're trying to find a way to train yourself to keep thinking about the fact that Allah is there to watch over us. And like I think Nasifa said, I will do my best, and then you leave the rest. And then another great thing to do when you're creating an action plan is to find somebody who is going to help keep you accountable to whatever it is that you're working on. Sometimes we have lots of goals for ourselves, but then we might easily switch to something else, and it's really hard to hold yourself accountable. If you can find a friend or work with your spouse, or if you see somebody on this call, you can reach out to them. Try and see if there's somebody who is also trying to make some sort of a action plan, and then see if you guys can hold each other accountable for that. So plan to either check in with each other daily, weekly, whatever it is that you need to help make sure that you are successful with achieving your goal. And then lastly, track your progress. See how it's going. Does it make a difference when you are constantly adding in these extra habits into your life, or trying to think about different ways? Can you see yourself, for example, trusting more in Allah and not worrying so much? Are there any questions about the action plan?
Anything that you feel you could add to the action plan that has not been mentioned here? If you were to create an action plan for yourself, how you're going to follow through, taking verses of the Quran and responding.
Or if you
Go
are
ahead.
thinking some examples are coming to your mind, it would be lovely for you to share them in the chat so that we can help one another think of different ideas of what we could do to help bring these more into our life.
I think there's this one that we missed. I surrender my heart to Allah completely with no return by obeying Him, His messenger, and His heirs, knowing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not let me despair as I'm holding fast to the firmest handle, while others want to take me away from it, and with Allah lies all outcomes of things. So yeah, I like how it's like it's expanded, like, in your own words, you're creating that affirmation and expressing yourself. It's almost like, when we write in our own journals and we're expressing our feelings, but now that expression includes the words of the Almighty, right? See how beautiful it starts becoming, because we're taking help from Allah's words, and we're adding it to our statements and our expressions, right? We're supporting our expressions through verses from the Quran. Any questions, any concerns, does this make sense? Is it something you see yourself starting to do?
In fact, as you're reading the Quran now, just to stop and try and create these statements to really respond, because I think that's partly what can help really help us to converse with the Quran. Allah is speaking to us, and then have that conversation back. It doesn't have to necessarily be about a certain theme. It can be just you learning to read the Quran and respond as you're reading.
Thank you for those comments. Yes, it's true. Sabira and I also had a nice time creating that skit, because, again, it was something that we were, trying to internalize ourselves based on real life circumstances, right? It just gives you that opportunity to see how practical verses of the Quran can be. Sabra, you want to show them the verse on the morning routine?
Sure.
We have a few minutes, maybe we can cover that. Yes, Nasifa, it does take practice, but it helps, right? Because we can continue. And even when we're just reciting it, when we're reciting the Quran, right? Sometimes we come across verses which literally speak to us, right? And there has to be that response that comes out naturally, right? And if we get into that habit of having this natural response, then we're going to be looking at the Quran with a very different lens, because now we know that it's talking to us and we're having this interaction with it. Okay, what are your own favorite verses besides those mentioned in the slide? That's a good question. Sabra, you want to go for it?
Oh gosh. I always love the last few verses of Surah Fajr. Those are some of my favorite. Yeah. There's so many.
There's so many favorites, right? Yeah, because once you start, they just become. I look at the verses and I'm like, yeah, this one's my favorite, and then I look at another one, and I'm like, okay, now this one's my favorite. One of my personal favorites, and I have it on my desk as well, is idfa billati hiya ahsan, right? Repel evil with that which is good. right? If I were to restate that, I tell my children, be the bigger person, right? Somebody does something wrong to you, you be the bigger person and you repel evil with good. So yes, thank you for asking that. Right. So this was one we put it under morning routine, and again, because the verse had the term dawn in it, right? So Surah Al Imran, verse number 17, patient and truthful, obedient and charitable, and pleading Allah's forgiveness at dawn. So it's almost giving that, how do I start my day? When I start my day with, obviously, doing istighfar, seeking forgiveness from Allah, and almost making these pacts, right? That throughout my day, these are some of the core values that I am going to make sure that I am following through, right? So being patient, being truthful, being obedient to Allah, and we talked about obedience in the beginning, charitable, and charity does not mean necessarily like, monetary, like even the gift of time that I give, a smile that I will give to someone is my way of giving charity. How is it that I'm giving in the way of Allah, right? And obviously pleading Allah's forgiveness at dawn. So it's like I'm de-weeding my garden before I'm planting other seeds, right? So I'm trying to clear my slate and then try getting everything. And that's why our statement here said, I wake up at dawn and plead for Allah's forgiveness. I practice being patient, truthful, obedient, and charitable. Okay. Anything else? Any other thoughts, any questions? Sabira, you want to just show them the last slide that we had of the chart that we have? So yeah, this was just a quick chart that we created. On the one side, we have the theme, and it's almost like a starting point. So if you wanted to create a chart for yourself, or you wanted to have like a journal where you have, you have a page for a theme, and then you're putting an ayat of the Quran, a Quranic ayat there, and putting your personalized statement. And then the next time you come across another ayat of the Quran that's talking about Rahmah, for example, and you really like it and you create a personalized statement, you can add to your collection, right? So now you have your own personal, apart from the Quran, you also have your own personal collection of like verses. It's like your verse bank that you're depositing in every day, with personalized statements. And then keeping on reading them, right? We reiterate them to the point that it becomes part of our language. So that, and I think that's a goal that many people have, that we should be able to communicate using Quranic language, right? We know people in history who were able to do that, and it was fascinating. Like we know Bibi Fida always responded using verses of the Quran, right? So if we can start somewhere and have some of these statements from the Quranic verses that we can internalize and use in our daily conversations, wouldn't that be beautiful? Thank you. Okay, there's something that I shared. Okay, so Zahra has. Okay, so can I ask you if. Okay, this is something that beautiful. So someone has actually shared, she's started doing it herself already. As we were going through the course, she was putting down her Quranic affirmations along with the verses that we had given. Okay, so for the first one, for Surah Anfal, verse number 24, and Surah Anfal, verse number 20, I will respond to Allah by listening to His commands and laws. And then from Surah Baqarah, verse number 128, she says, to get the mercy of Allah, I will do inner jihad. And then for Surah Luqman, verse number 20, she says, I will be thankful for what I have because Allah has given me everything. Beautiful. Surah Luqman, verse number 17, I will be patient through everything that happens to me. And Surah Luqman, verse number 22, I will put my trust in the representatives of Allah as they are also the firmest handle. Thank you so much, Zahra. That's very heartwarming to see that action happening right away, right? And that's what, yeah. And if I'm not mistaken, I know she keeps writing to us in the private chat, but this is Zahra, the 12-year-old Zahra, right? Just to let everyone know that we have a young participant who is very enthusiastic. Yes, she says yes. Okay, who's very enthusiastic and who's actually started internalizing now. How fortunate is she, Sabira, that she gets to start doing this at such a young age? Imagine what she's going to be like when she gets to our age. MashaAllah. Keep it up, Zahra. Keep that up. That's amazing. Yes, Brother Ali, you'd like to share a verse? Sure, you want to share a verse with us right now? And an affirmation from it? Okay. And can you, okay, so it's from Surah Hud, verse number 88. Yes, one of my favorite. And I think I know where you are, what you're highlighting here. وَمَا تَوْفِيقِي إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ. Is that what you're trying to highlight? Awesome, great, right? So if you see, the verse says, consider if, O my people, consider if I stand on a clear proof from my Lord, and he has blessed me with a good provision from him. I do not want to do what I am forbidding you from. I only intend reform to the best of my ability. My success comes only through Allah. وَمَا تَوْفِيقِي إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ. In him I trust and to him I return. Right? So this verse here already has almost like an I statement, right? Where, you know, we're quoting somebody who said this, that my success comes only through Allah. In him I trust and to him I turn. Right? So we also have verses like these in the Quran that you can literally just take directly, quote that verse, and that can be your affirmation. So yes, thank you very much for sharing that. So just like that, there's so many verses. Like once we get into it, there's just so many. I know we're out of time. We're around for a couple of minutes. If anybody has any questions and would like to, ask, these slides will be posted on the Academy's website. So you will have access to it, I think, in about a day or so. Yeah, thank you very much, everyone, for attending and for those useful contributions. I think, Sabira, you'll agree, you and I also have learned some different techniques of affirming.
Definitely. There were some really awesome statements that people came up with. So thank you so much for sharing and making this an interactive session.
That's what it was intended to be, right? Okay. Thank you very much, Jazakumullah. And please let us remember each other in du'as in the coming holy month of Mahi Ramadan, that we should inshallah be able to interact with the holy book, which is, it's the month of the Quran, right? Ramadan Mubarak to you too. Okay. And we have learned a lot from you too, Brother Ali. Loved how you were extending all those affirmations. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Yes.